Hello and welcome to February 2024's Dadler Soul Sessions. My name is Jim Colson. We're live for the next hour and there's plenty of stuff coming up. Now, I'm going to do what I like to do at this point, which is to do kind of, it would be like the This Morning menu. But I still call This Morning Richard and Judy because that's the vintage that I am. So here we go. So this is what's happening. You've got Dan Lasole, Dan Flanagan, who's our big boss. He's going to be coming on to tell us what's going on with Dad Lasole in a few minutes. Then you've got NHS trainee clinical psychologist Anna Westbrook on her research into new dad's well-being. She's doing a research project on that, and you can help her with that. So basically, stick around. She'll have a chat about what she's doing, why she's doing it, and how you can get involved. Then 8:50, we've got Alex's conflict management clinic. You've been sending your questions in. He'll be giving you the answers to common conflict management questions. And then the main guest of the evening, 9 o'clock, Ben Hall from Lewes FC, on how the club uses football to bring about change in the game and in the community. And it's a big deal. They're the first football club to have equally funded the men's and women's team. Everything is equal about it. It's an amazing thing they're doing. They're working really hard in the community. They're making a difference. And also, they're hosting the next new venue for Dad Lasole's playdates. We're going to be in Lewes in February. So stick around for more details on that. We'll talk about the amazing work at Lewes FC. We'll also mention the Lewes playdates as well, because if you're near Lewes, you could get down there. It's going to be a good one as well, but more information on that coming up in a bit. First of all, this is what happened when I caught up with Dan Flanagan, the big Uber boss of Dad Lasole. Sessions, it is Dan Flanagan. How you doing?
I'm all right, actually. Last few days have been really foggy, so I think, is there a medical thing like the January blues?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure there is, and someone's probably monetized it as well by going, "This is what you need to get rid of them January blues."
Exactly. Like, I know Blue Monday and all of that shit is
a great New Order song. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I had a great New Order song. Yeah,
yeah.
But no, I've just been a bit of a funk, really, and very sort of gluey headed. So yeah, getting through the days has been a bit of a challenge. Yeah. If I'm honest,
it's like low-level germ season, isn't it? It's not like you full-on, like it'd almost be better to have like a couple of days of full-on illness and then get it out of the way. But it's actually just those germs at the back, slightly tickly throat and things.
Yeah, very snotty. My partner's been ill. My son's been ill. Yeah, there's a lot of germs, and kids breed germs, don't they?
They do. Absolutely terrible.
Weird petri dish of illness.
Who would have them, eh?
Who would have them? But yeah, on the scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about 6.5. How are you?
I was like 7.5, maybe. I'm all right. I'm doing okay. Like, you know, I'm glad it's coming into February. Yeah. It's a new month. It's a new sort of opportunity. It's a new payday.
It's also your birthday.
It's my birthday. I didn't like to mention that, but it is on Tuesday. And I will put my address in the comments down there so that you can send lovely presents to me and cheer me up.
Or you could put your address down there so we can all organise a time to come around and give you the bumps.
Yeah. Oh, it's getting to that age, though, where that many bumps could be a medical incident. So
they don't do it anymore, do they?
No, they don't. Like, my kids don't even know what the bumps are. One of the teachers in one of the years that my daughter was out, it was a couple of years ago, she used to sit them on a office chair and spin them round the amount of times for the years that they were. Yeah. Which, I'll be honest, if I did that now, I'd be violently sick. If I was going around on Tuesday, if I was going 45 times round on an office chair, I would be out of action for a week.
But when did it get outlawed? Because I remember it used to get pretty vicious. So you had that one for luck at the end where people would throw you up and basically just let you go. So you fall down into a flurry of kicks.
And imagine like having to write, your mum or your dad having to write into school saying, sorry, little Dan can't come in today because he's got an injury from the bumps.
You leave my little Dan out of this.
We're 3 minutes in. We've not talked about Dad Lasole, but we've talked about the bumps. So
we're talking about kids not understanding something. I was having a movie night on, I think it was Monday night with my lad. And as we always do, we were having argument / discussion about what we were going to watch. And for some reason, I'd Twins, Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger film. But I thought, oh yeah, that's probably quite funny. Let's watch it. And I said, oh, you'll really like this. And he's going, you can't watch that. You're a racist. So what?
Oh.
He'd never heard the name Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's like, but do you not know the Terminator? And it's like, why would an 11-year-old know this?
No,
But
exactly.
it was really weird, made me feel so ancient. It's like, it's Arnie. Everybody knows Arnie. It's like, I've got no idea who you are. You are not relevant anywhere. You are not relevant, old man. Move on.
Oh my goodness. So this must be like what it was like for our parents when they were talking about the people who were, in the films when they were young, and we were like, whatever.
Yeah. Clark Gable,
Yes.
And the other thing he did, we ended up watching a film based on a David Walliams book, which was Grandad's Last Adventure, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's quite sweet, about a young boy and his granddad, who slowly getting dementia. His granddad used to be a World War II pilot. And it's very sweet. And at the end, his spoiler alert, the granddad passes, and it had me in pieces. Right? I was booing, and my son just looked at me and went, "You're just so weak, aren't you?"
Ouch!
I was like, "No, I'm emotionally intelligent. This has affected me." And he just like, yeah, if he was from Yorkshire, about, "Hey, by God, you are a big girl's blouse."
Wow, that is hardcore. That is.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder you're feeling a bit gluey-headed. That is
Kicked by the people I love.
Ooh, ouch. So what's going on with Dadler Salt then?
What is going on with Dadler Salt? So we are back running our events. So we've done the playdates. We've done the evening meetups. We launch Lewes, and I know you're going to be talking to Ben later on about the amazing Equality in Sport campaign that Lewes Football Club do. Interesting, we had a team day. Well, I say a team day on Sunday. Some people were absent.
Let's see if we can see someone who isn't in this picture. I was at home in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I think you'd probably have to. Can you superimpose yourself at the back?
Yeah, I will.
So I was actually there.
Yeah. You didn't talk to me. It was a little bit rude, Dan. Yeah.
But you ate most of the pizza. So that's some of our volunteers and some of our mentors. And it was a really nice, interesting day for everybody to get together for the first time in the flesh. A couple of people had to drive down. I think it was 2/2.5 hours each way. So it felt like a proper grown-up thing. I've been to many sort of corporate away days and strategies, and they're tiring. It's death by PowerPoint. Ours was really, really, engaged, and we got through the plan about where the organisation is going, how we're going to get there, how we resource types of partners. So it was, a really, really interesting way to spend a Sunday. So we need to do more of that. But I'm conscious that, when you are working with people that are essentially volunteers, because everybody's got a job, they've got families, got other commitments, to try and give up a chunk of time it's a big ask in, the colloquial terms, but really useful. To spend brilliant-minded people spending 8 hours on the organisation. What's wrong? How are we going to fix it? Came away being really energised. I feel like grown-ups, proper grown-ups.
Yeah, that is a proper grown-up thing to do. And it's nice to come away with those, because I've been to some of those things. I've been to some of those things that have been really inspiring and really, you come out and you're like, oh, this is great. We're going to really make change. And I've been to some where it's like, this was just 8 hours of busy time. They were like, someone's gone, we have to have one of these days. And then 2 days before gone, what are we going to fill the time with?
What's your worst one?
The worst one was when it was It was the worst on the day. Actually, it wasn't too bad, but it was just the fact that they had no intention of taking anything on board. So it was a radio station that I worked at, and what we did, we came in the first day, and the MD came in and he just went, right, there's another radio station opening in the patch. How are we going to cement our place here, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to elevate what we do? And so we came up with quite a lot of ideas, and when we presented them, they were a bit like, oh no, we can't, no, we're not going to do that, no, we're not. And then in the days afterwards, it became increasingly obvious that it was just they'd had a day because they had to have a day, and they had no intent. And it wasn't even true. There wasn't even. It was like it was a situation they'd put us in, but they just had no intention of changing anything, and it was just miserable. It was like,
but you got paid for this.
Yeah,
that's the only outcome, which is useful.
I did. I get paid to be there, but I'd have got paid to be in the studio doing my actual show as well, which I would have enjoyed a lot more. But yeah.
So I remember one probably about well over 20 years ago now. I was working for an organisation that made hearing aids. I was their marketing manager, new job. At the end of the first week, they took the entire company to Portugal for a weekend. I did not like anybody I worked with.
Oh, okay.
But on the flight over there, I met a really interesting fella who was staying in the same part of Portugal. He said, look, if you're at a loose end after your conferences, come for a pint. And I thought, okay, rather than, hang around and feel like a Billy No Mates. I went off, I think, we landed, wandered around, thought, I'll go and see if he's in this pub. I ended up meeting him and going out all night with him and a Wigan rugby club that I'd met. Turned up for the conference late the next day, completely hungover. Had to leave an hour and a half into it because I was being ill. And then on the Monday morning, when we flew back, I got sacked.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's not the greatest of all outcomes for those.
Nice weekend in Portugal with a Wigan rugby club. Really decent fellas, really good night out. But my career in hearing aid supply and marketing was a limited one, should we say.
What could have happened? What could have been different in this world? You could have been like chief of hearing aids right
They
now.
were deaf to my ideas.
Oh, there we go.
Actually, talking about radio, as you just were, we've got some news, haven't we?
Oh, we have. Yes. So, it's not just the UK that we like to try and cast under our spell. We're going stateside, right?
International, baby. Yeah, we have been. What's the word? I was going to say groomed, but no, groomed is not the word.
Headhunted. Let's say headhunted. Yeah,
headhunted. Yeah, by the Face Radio, which is a radio station based out in Brooklyn, in New York, and the show that we do on a Tuesday is now being repackaged up and going out to a potentially global audience. So can we honestly say we are probably New York DJs?
Yeah, I'm definitely saying that. We're going to be on the radio in New York, technically on the actual radio around the Big Apple. So that makes us, I'm going to say, actual New York DJs. I'm very excited.
Isn't it? On a scale of 1 to midlife crisis, this is this works, isn't it?
It is.
So,
we'll give you details on when our first show is going to be there, and you can have a listen online as well.
The question is, how are the Yanks going to respond to our colloquial thing? And colloquial. Your accent. I think we're going to have subtitles on the radio so they can understand when it comes to Yorkshire.
There you go. And I think that's fine. I think, we're introducing them to a whole new culture. I think for them, it's going to be a learning experience, and long may that continue.
Can you do a New York accent?
Forget about it.
The answer is no, you can't do
no,
New York accent.
New York. First time I went to New York, someone gave us this guidebook, and it had like phrases you might need, and forgot about it was one of them. I was like, I don't think I'll need that. I think if I use that, I'll not be coming back from New York. And
No,
quite rightly as well.
Exactly. The phrases need, please don't shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
And please don't shoot. Don't vote for him again. Did
Yeah.
you not learn?
Well, that's it. The last time I went to New York, it was while Trump was the president. And I was walking down, is it Fifth Avenue or Madison, where...
Walking down Madison.
Yeah.
I swear I never had a gun.
Had that in my head every time. Wherever Trump Tower is, anyway. And I looked over, and there's this woman, and she was walking like this fancy poodle, and she was just walking down the road, middle finger up to Trump Tower as she walked past it. It's like she was like this suave New York lady, and like all of a sudden she was like, "Go on, Donald Trump."
I like the cut of her jib.
It was very funny. I wish I'd filmed it, but you're probably not meant to do that with strangers.
Yeah, laws, smalls, balls. Yeah, so that is I suppose, our roundup of the news.
Okay.
Yeah, and more next time.
Thanks very much.
More. There's always more.
Oh, yeah, there's always more. There's always more. Thank you very much, Dan Flanagan. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Emotional.
Sessions. It's hang on, Dan was just back there again. Sorry, there was a weird thing with the picture going on there, but you got the idea. You could hear us. You didn't need to see two enormously handsome middle-aged men talking. You could just look at that picture instead. Right, quick interview then with Anna Westbrook, who is doing this survey about new dads, and I don't know why I'm trying to introduce it. She can introduce it herself. This is what happened when I talked to her yesterday. I am here with Anna Westbrook. Hello, Anna. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's really good to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Dadless Soul Sessions, because you're doing something which I think sort of aligns very much with what we do as well. So do you want to explain what it is that you're up to?
Yes. So I'm Anna, and I'm a trainee clinical psychologist currently finishing my doctorate at the University of Royal Holloway. And as part of that, I have to do my kind of doctoral thesis and do some research. And I've chosen to focus on thinking a bit more about dads' experiences of becoming a father and the impact that that then has on their mental health and relationships around them. And I guess what I've learned, as I'm sure you guys know best at Dadless Soul, is how kind of underestimated this field is, how very little research there is into really anything to do with dads, and all of our research is about mums and is then just kind of broadly applied to dads, which we know it's a different group, different people with different needs. And so my aim has really been to kind of try and understand dads a bit better and get more information to then better support them, really.
Okay. What was it then? Was it just because there's so little research on dads that made you go, well, this is an interesting area to cover?
Yeah, I think it was because there was so little about it that when I started looking at it, I was like, well, this is odd. Why is there nothing that I can find about it? I think also from witnessing people in my family or my friends becoming dads and seeing what a lovely time it was, but also what a difficult time it was. And there was almost no support out there. No one was really asking them how they were. And I kind of saw the impact that had. And then wanted to think about, well, why don't I use my kind of psychology academic stuff to actually think about this properly? And yeah, then I learned that there's very little that we do know.
It is interesting. It'll be fascinating to know what comes out of your research as well, because I mean, it's something we talk about a lot, is that there's a lot of focus on the mum when a baby's born. Obviously there needs to be, and a lot of focus on the mum's mental health. And we know there's many reasons why that is absolutely necessary as well. But there's very little talked about men. In fact, in some ways, it's sort of almost a taboo to talk about a dad's mental health. It's like, well, you should be there and you should be supportive and you should be a provider and you should be whatever it is, these society pressures that there are. But actually, you know, there are challenges that come up. And I mean, are you finding that sort of thing in the responses that you're getting, maybe?
Yeah, and I guess from the little research that we do have, it kind of tells us exactly that from times when fathers have been interviewed about their experiences and things like that. It is this kind of resounding response of feeling like they don't fit anywhere, that the focus should be on the mum and the baby throughout the kind of prenatal period and all the appointments. The dad doesn't really get a look in and after the baby's born. And so I guess it really leaves men with this feeling that they aren't that important, and they need to kind of stay strong for the family is something that comes up in the research a lot as this real pressure that may be different to mums who might be on maternity leave. Men still often are working, and that adds on a whole different pressure that we don't see as much in kind of maternal mental health after having a baby.
And also another thing that that I sort of experienced, I'm sure a lot of people do, is that, and I know this probably is the same for mums and dads actually, is that you have that baby and you're like, oh, I'm just meant to know what to do with it. But oh my God, it's a baby, it's an actual life there. And you just meant to take it in your stride as well and just go, yeah, it's fine. We're just doing all the things that we do. But every day's a learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. And we know that that's kind of overwhelming for anybody to be put into that situation. But then with all the stuff that we've historically put on men to kind of act like they know what they're doing and not ask for help. And so we know that men are far less likely to seek any mental health support, particularly when it's around having a baby, because it's not even necessarily the services there. In my work in the NHS, I've definitely noticed how little we're bringing up how a dad's doing, even if we kind of know a mum is struggling and we know how much that's part of the relationship and impacts the whole family. And it's still something that I constantly have to find myself pushing in my clinical work of, have we thought about dad? Have we talked to dad? How are things for them? Because it so often gets left behind. And
that's where we hopefully come in to try and fill a gap. Is we have these groups, we have the play dates for dads and their kids to come along to. We have the dads only nights where dads can come and meet other dads, make new dad friends and chat about whatever it is that they want to chat about. And there's always like a wide range of conversations going on there. So we have this community who are dads, and you're looking for dads. So it makes sense to do the Ricky Gervais kind of synergy thing. And what do you want our dads to do, basically? What can they do for you?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm looking for dads to fill in a very short survey. It should only take about 10 minutes, so not take up too much time. And it's really a survey that's kind of using a lot of standardized questionnaires that we use in kind of psychological work all the time, thinking about how having a baby has impacted your mental health and the relationships around you and your view of yourself and all those things. And so any dads who've had a baby in the last 2 years, that can be through surrogacy, adoption, or your partner giving birth, then if they can fill in this survey, that would be really helpful to me in forming my doctoral thesis. And then we'll get a lot more information that we don't have about what men need and what is the impact of kind of not paying attention to their mental health, really.
And so not just helping Anna out, but helping other dads out in the future. Future dads. Imagine Absolutely. Future dads being helped. That's your opportunity to change what happens. If you weren't happy with how the process works when you became a dad, then this is your opportunity to have your say and change that. So Anna, I would get you to give the website address, but it's very complicated, so I'm just going to probably stick it in the description if that's all right.
Yeah, that's probably best.
All right, so go and fill that out if you can. That would be amazing, and you'd be doing a great thing. Anna Westbrook, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that is in the comments or in the description, wherever you're watching this live stream right now, that link. So go and help Anna out. Right. On the way, got Ben Hall from Lewes FC. We're going to be talking about Lewes FC, an extraordinary club, an extraordinary community project as well, and perfect kind of organization for Dadless Soul to be associating with, and we are doing, because they're going to be hosting our play dates in Lewes when they start in February, which it already is February. This is February's Dadless Soul sessions. I'm Jim. Let's get on Alex, who's been waiting very patiently. Alex, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Jim?
I'm good, thank you very much. Now, you are our conflict management expert. People have been sending in their questions. They've been bearing their souls, basically, trying to get your answers to their problems. This first one says, I'm currently facing a situation at work where I disagree with a colleague's approach to managing staff. I think he's far too harsh. It's causing tension in our team. How can I address this effectively without escalating the conflict and maintain a positive working relationship?
So, difficult to know the exact context, because are you one of his team? Are you at the same level as him? Are you above him? It's difficult. So I'm going to sort of assume that it might be that, as you said, a colleague's managing staff, that you are at the same sort of level as this colleague. Sit down with him and have a chat about the challenges that he's facing. And that's obvious, because he's clearly struggling to manage the team, because it's causing potential resentment within the team. So have a chat with him about what he thinks is causing it, and then say, and try and establish what his viewpoint is, and then start to gently lead on into some form of collaborative thought process of, well, you've been doing it in sort of, way A, and why don't, have you thought about way B or way C? They've got some good points and bad points, like yours have got good points and bad points. But it might be, and is often the case, I've discovered over years, is that managing people is phenomenally difficult. Yeah, I don't massively like doing it. I've done it. I still do it. But it's not the easiest of things to do. And so I am always very grateful when other people give me suggestions and ideas. But people have to do it in a way that doesn't sound like, you're wrong, I'm right. And that's the trick. And it's about a very softly approach, and, say that, the way you dealt with that was great, and that was a really tough response that so-and-so gave back to you, and you handled it, really well, and, I couldn't think of a better way of doing it other than possibly to have added in this or that or whatever. So really build up try and build up that rapport, and then get his thoughts on alternative ways of trying to do the same thing. Yeah. But as I say, without knowing the exact details and dynamics, it's hard to give precise advice on this one.
When I managed people, I was the opposite. I wasn't too harsh. I was far too lenient, and I didn't like telling anyone what to do. I just ended up doing all the work because I didn't really want to delegate it to other people. And it was a disaster. And that's why I don't do it anymore. There you go.
Yeah, no, delegation, that technically many people say that management is the art of delegation.
Yes, it is. And it's an art I have never managed to get hold of. Next one. We're often finding it difficult to manage conflicts between our two children who are 8 and 11. They have very different interests and very different personalities. It leads to frequent arguments and disruptions at home. What can we do?
The ages are interesting here. I'm guessing the 11-year-old has just started secondary school, and the 8-year-old is probably still at primary. And that is a big jump. It's a huge jump. It's a huge change. The first thing I'll say is, please be reassured. It will get easier. Yeah. I've mentioned them in the past. I've got 3 kids. They're now 18, 16 and 14. When they were probably 12, 10 and 8, so roughly this sort of age, absolute nightmare, complete disaster zone, World War III, nearly every day. These days, much better, much easier. And so half of me says to this dad, just bide your time. It will get easier, because it does genuinely get easier. The challenges are still there, but they're just different. But they don't tend to be at each other in quite the same way. However, my honest answer to how to deal with it now is probably don't try and make them be together, make them work together, make them play together. It simply won't work. You are just making a rod for your own back, except that they are going to have 2 separate different lives. They are going to argue, accept that, and just learn to have to manage that, I'm afraid. I know that's almost like a negative way of dealing with it, but actually you can't force 2 people together who don't want to be together. Yeah. And that's true at any stage in life, but rest assured, they will start to see more eye to eye and get better, probably when the younger one gets towards secondary school.
Just play the long game. Play the long game.
You've got to play the long game on this one. Yes. Yeah.
I can see.
As I say, challenges are there, whether they're 6 months old, 6 years, 16, or 26. The challenges are always there. It's just they're different.
Yeah, with my my eldest is probably he's going to secondary school next year, so this is probably going to be us as well at the same time. So I'm going to record that I'm going to save it on my phone and bring it out next year when I need it. Thank you. And last question. My elderly parents disapprove of my lifestyle choices and career decisions, leading to regular disagreements and tension during family gatherings. How do I tell them to back off because I'm a grown adult, but in a nice way?
Okay. Little bit link back to the last one that we've just done. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. You're stuck with them. So the option of walking away would be dramatic and family splitting and destroying, and we want to avoid that, obviously. So, because if these weren't your parents, I would possibly say, well, don't associate with them if they're friends, if they disagree with what you want to do and how you live your life. But be honest with them and say, look, this is what makes me happy. And because it makes me happy, I want that to make you happy. Yeah. You may not agree with it. You may not like what I do and the way I do it, but it's what I've chosen to do. And put a positive spin on it. You know, I enjoy this. I like this. It's my choice. I feel happy. I feel fulfilled. Use all these words that, you know, give off a positive vibe, whilst at the same time fundamentally saying, I know you don't like it. I know that I do like it. And I know that we're going to have to agree to disagree on this. And the last thing I would say is the dad talks about family gatherings. These family gatherings are usually to celebrate something, or even if it's only just to get together. Yeah. And say to them, the rest of the family don't want to spend time listening to you and I discussing the ins and outs of how I run my life. Yeah, it's boring for them. They're not interested in it. And actually, I'd much rather spend the time catching up, having a laugh, reminiscing, planning future things, be much more fun. So always try and put a positive spin on it, but at the same time, accept that you will agree to disagree.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Alex. Really appreciate it. Once again, you've come in with some cracking answers to help some dads out. And will you be around first Thursday of March as well?
I will be. I will be indeed. Yes, I will have just become a teenager.
Yes, exactly. I was going to mention this because I think you're the first person I've met that I know was born on the 29th of February. That's very exciting. Is it like, it must be even in your, you know, what, you're 21, aren't you, in real life, around that. It must be very exciting, all of the, you know, to get your birthday every 4 years.
It is indeed. And I've got a few more years to wait because a local pub here in Worthing is offering 18-year-olds, aka 72-year-olds, a free pint on the 29th if they turn up with ID.
Nice.
Because they've got to be ID because they've only just turned 18.
Of course, yeah. That is brilliant.
I'm gutted. I've got to wait.
It's a great idea.
Another
though.
20 years.
Yeah, but play the long game. We've talked about that, right? Play the long game. Alex, lovely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This is the Dadler Soul Sessions. It's the 1st of February. So February Dadler Soul Sessions. We're going to be talking to Ben Hall from Lewes FC after this little teaser of what we've got planned.
I definitely recommend that Dadler Soul, and it's great for dads to get together and hang out and spend a bit of quality time. And would you recommend it, Fernando?
It was quite funny because as soon as the boys came in, they didn't know where to go to first because there's so much on.
I think to act in a kind of a male space is just quite nice, whilst also knowing that Lucy and the partner's getting a bit of time off as well. It feels like kind of win-win.
Everyone I've spoken to here that's associated with Dadler Soul is really, really friendly. All the dads as well.
And here on the Dadler Soul Sessions is Ben Hall. Ben, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm good. Thanks very much, Jim. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. So Do you think that Lewes FC is ready for the marauding hordes of Dad Lassalle?
Well, it's interesting. We're spectacularly kid-friendly, so I'd like to think so. One of the great things about Lewes is that it's a place you can come with your kids. You can come and watch a game. I've been around football my entire life. I'm a very, very venerable 58 years old these days. I've got 3 kids, just a very soon-to-be 29-year-old, a 26-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And I wish I had known about somewhere like Lewes when I was a football-obsessed dad and my son was 9 years old and utterly and totally obsessed with going to Arsenal, because it's eye-wateringly expensive and actually not a particularly great match day experience for a 9-year-old. The really special thing about Lewes is you can wander everywhere. You turn up to a game, you wander in, and it is an extraordinarily safe and wonderful environment. There are literally hordes of little kids all kind of roaming around everywhere in packs.
That's interesting, because my experience of football, I support Scunthorpe United, and they try, you know, they do try, they do actually a really good job there, but it's still that very kind of I think it's that kind of mentality sort of certain teams, you know, who've maybe I don't know what it is, but it's very much, it's like an adult thing first, and then kids can come. And I think Scunny are pretty good at it. Well, we've been to a lot of away games where it's been like, oh, this is not a nice experience to take my 7-year-old to.
I think away games, obviously, you can't control those. I mean, we have a men's team and a women's team. As I'm sure some people listening are aware, we are the first, and I think still only, professional or semi-professional club in Britain that pays its men's and women's teams the same. We're actually facing a challenge at the moment because of the explosion of interest in women's football. We've got to try and find a way of paying the women more to stay competitive. So we're having to possibly move from Equality FC to Equity FC. But I think one of the things that means is that there is there's just a very, very different ethos around it, Jim, is the honest truth of it. I'm a very new director. I became a voluntary director 6 weeks ago, so I'm just kind of getting my head around it. But before that, I was a fan, and it is just a very, very magical place to come. So as I said, you can, under 16s are free, number one. I think lots of clubs do that, but you can literally come in free. There are kid-friendly eating options. There's a path the whole way around the pitch, and you're literally free just to wander wherever you want. We have literally kids doing kind of laps. They're literally kind of running around and it is just a really, really very special place to come. There's a slight difference in atmosphere between men's games and women's games. The men play in the Isthmian Premier League, that's tier 7. And there are maybe between 800 and 1,200 in attendance. So, you know, it's a good crowd for an Isthmian Premier League team. We're, I think, 4th or 5th in the kind of attendance league. And obviously there's a bit more chanting. There's a little bit more, slightly more conventional, I suppose, kind of, you know, attitudes around it. There's more language for anybody thinking of coming. You know, your kids will hear the odd, you know, F and this. And we did have to discipline someone the other day for using the C word. But the women's games are really a very, very unusual and very different experience. There's a very different atmosphere. It's still tribal. People still want Lewes to win, but it is an extraordinarily family-friendly environment. And I think 2 of the play dates you've got planned are actually for women's games, March 17th and April 21st. That's the women's first team against Watford and the women's first team against Crystal Palace. And what you'll immediately notice is the women play teams that are instantly recognisable. The women are fully professional and play in the Championship, which is the 2nd tier. So it's the same as the men's. There's the Women's Super League, Men's Premier League, and then the Championship with both men's and women's football. And we are currently 2nd bottom in the Championship, and we are desperately trying to avoid getting relegated. So it's getting a little bit squeaky bum time, to quote Alex Ferguson, to go down for the first time. And we are desperately hoping that we're not one of them, because Lewes is a very rogue presence. You know, we're in the same league as Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, Southampton. So big Premier League and Championship teams with very, very big resources now that they are throwing at the women's game. And we are there as this little kind of disruptive outsider. The phrase we use is kind of the mouse that roared. It's a David versus Goliath thing. And we would love to be there next year. We would still love to be there next year.
Yeah, that's one of those stories that really needs to happen, because I think I read on the website about, you know, when you make a change in football, it does reverberate, but you've got to be brave enough to make that change, haven't you? You've got to be brave enough to put yourself out there. And I think everyone wants that sort of attitude in the game.
Well, it's interesting. You know, we're very countercultural. So there's the Equality FC thing. We're a leader on trying to get gambling ads out of football. We do a lot to try and prevent abuse on the terraces. We've got terraces and a stand, so you can sit as well. But we have a campaign called Call Him Out, which is where we actually encourage men to prevent each other from and call each other out if they are abusing people unnecessarily, whether it's fellow fans or players on the pitch, whatever. We're not for a second saying we don't think there is a place to get emotional and to shout and to yell at a football match, but we're just trying to make sure it's appropriate. And in the women's game, that there is remarkably little language. Actually, it is a different environment, and we are absolutely champions of women's football with everything that means. And one of the things we absolutely love, and I absolutely love, is I play for Lewes Vets, so I'm 58. Lewes Vets is over 35s, and the team that trains before us on a Tuesday night is the Lewes Pathway Girls. It's the under 16 Lewes girls team. And what I love is all the dads who are there watching. And because, they are in the same way, maybe they, in the past would have invested in their son, they're now able to put that investment and that interest in football through their daughters. And yes, being a professional footballer at Lewes Football Club is a viable, albeit very challenging, career option. They are one of the top 24 teams in the country.
And so this kind of ethos that Lewes has this always been the case? Was there a turning point? Was there a point where it just seemed to come together? And because this is very, as you say, this is like kind of a disruptor in the industry, and it is brilliant to see. And that's exactly why it's such a great fit for Dad Le Sol, because this is exactly what we want to see. So where's the sort of
so a little bit of history? a little bit of history. It was not always like that. I mean, I'd say until about. So this is where I have two things. A, I've got a rubbish memory, and B, I'm quite new in the role. But I think it was around about 2015. The club was going, as many football clubs was about to go, not bust, but was going through a major period of financial struggle. And six dads, bought the club. And they bought it with two intentions. They bought it for remarkably little, but they took on the debt and wiped out the debt. I think I'm getting this right. Please excuse me if I get some of this wrong, but give or take a bit, it's right. And they set about two things. One was community ownership. So they had a huge belief in community ownership. And Lewes is also a very unusual football club, and it currently has 2,700 owners, I think it is. We'd love more. So if you want to join, if you want to become an owner of a football club and you genuinely are an owner, you get a share, then go to lewesfc.com and sign up. It's £50 a year, and you get a nice beanie hat. Actually, no, you get the beanie hat if you're 100 a year. So I shouldn't get a green owner's beanie hat. And they did it with that, and also they did it with this idea of Equality FC. They made a commitment to women's football and to equally supporting the men's team in the same way and with the same players, kind of the same playing budget is the phrase they use as the men's team. As I explained, the women's team is now fully professional. The men are semi-professional. And the way we make that work is that there is various grants that come from the Football Association that have to be spent on the women's team. That means we can just about, with a little bit of, scraping around, we can just about run a women's professional team. But there is unbelievably challenging, because the demands from the Football Association are constantly going up, and the budget to run a professional women's team is constantly going up. So no, they're kind of the real ethos and the real campaigning side of Lewes started, I'd say, probably about 8 years ago. Could be 6 years ago, not 100% sure.
And that's the thing, isn't it? There's the kind of the social campaigning as well. But another thing about football, which you touched on, is the sustainability of football teams, which is, and I mean, as I say, at Scunthorpe United supporter, we've just come off the back of two owners who both turned out to be not quite what they said they were going to be, and both of them left the club with huge amounts of debt, which now the current owners are desperately trying to kind of work through, and they're trying to think of innovative ways to do it. And this sort of fan ownership model seems to be a kind of strong one for Lewes, anyway.
It is a strong one, although it's not without its problems. I mean, you know, we are a very democratic, open and transparent club. Pretty much everything there is to know about Lewes is available in the public domain. The board was elected. Literally, if you're an owner, you could stand to become a board member. I mean, it's a bit of a funny story, but they specifically asked for an accountant. There were 3 accountants who stood, none of whom got elected. So we're all sat there at the first board meeting going, anyone got a clue about the finances? No, him. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and that's one of the challenges. That, you know, we are all very different people. There's a board of 10 elected board members. A group of us are new. My background's in television. I'm no good at all at kind of, you know, finances and things like that. And it is the financial sustainability of the club is one of the 5 pillars. So the club is built upon these 5 pillars: high performance football, impact on the world, our own house in order, full financial sustainability, and the 5th one that I can't remember right now. And rather than rummage through my notebook for it, let's just leave it at that. And one of those is full financial sustainability. So there are a group of directors who spend all of their time thinking, how is it feasible? Is it feasible for a club like Lewes to be fully sustainable financially with a professional team playing in the Championship with the increasing demands upon finance? So again, it's all in the public domain. There was an investment opportunity with a company called Mercury 13, who came in wanting to buy 51% of the women's team. Now, the way the club is structured meant that was possible. And that went to a democratic vote of all owners, and it was voted through. Now, for various reasons, the investment then didn't go ahead, and that's no one's fault. It was just one of those things where it didn't go ahead. But, you know, we are looking at opportunities, but there is actually, the way the club is structured, you can't actually ever own Lewes Football Club, because within its articles of association, it has to be owned as a community cooperative foundation. I got the words of that wrong, but you get the idea. There is a certain sort of company where it has to be owned as a community benefit society. There you go.
Right. And that's an admirable thing, because there are many great owners in football. Don't get me wrong. Loads of people who are genuinely in there as fans and passionate and want to get that sustainability. But there's also a lot of very rogue owners out there who've managed it. And because a football club is right at the heart of a community, absolutely at the heart of a community. And when someone comes in and uses it as a plaything, or use it as a route to, to a property deal, or whatever these people do up and down the country, and you hear about it all the time, that it does rip the heart out of a community. So to be able to have that written into your articles of association is kind of a positive thing, right?
Well, we're very lucky because there are also other protections. So the ground, which is marvelously called the Dripping Pan, it is regularly voted one of the best football days out in Britain, by the way. I mean, I think it was number 13 out of 100 in the most recent one of the most recent kind of, football magazine surveys. It is unusually beautiful. There's a great big grass bank that runs all the way down one side. It is properly quirky, which I think is good for, non-league football and for women's Championship football. And the kind of sorry, I completely forgot the question, Jim. You're going to have to remind me, mate. What was it?
We were just talking about how good it is to have something written in to stop you getting one dodgy owner.
The other protection we have is that the council own the pitch. It's a very unusual situation where we own the fixtures and fittings and the playing surface, but the underlying land is owned by the council, and it has to be used in perpetuity for sport and recreation.
Right.
So it could never ever be sold off. You referred to property deals. That's why I do have a memory.
Yes.
You referred to property deals, and we could never sell it to become a Tesco's or an Aldi or a Lidl, whatever, because it simply cannot be used for that. And again, I think so. There's quite a lot about it, and Lewes is quite an unusual town. I'm sure many of you know it because I know you're based in kind of Brighton, Hove, and Worthing, but it's a weird and wonderful place. We blow shit up on November the 5th, and if you haven't, I haven't lived here that long. I've only been here 3.5 years, and Lewes fireworks is weird.
Yeah, world famous. There you go.
It is world famous, but it's quite serious. It's quite intense. And again, what it means is that we are able to do football differently. We're trying to do football differently. We're trying to do football better. That's one of the kind of the phrases that we bandy around. We're trying to be fans of change. That's another one of the sort of slight kind of marketing slogans that we tend to use. And again, I think one of the things that is a really beautiful manifestation of that is the match day experience. You know, it really is a very, very different place to come and watch football. And football is such a bonding thing, isn't it? It's such an extraordinarily powerful bit of social cohesion. And I think the fact that you guys are using Lewes as a kind of a location for a play date, you know, I think the plan is to do from 10 to 12. That's what the thing said. That'll be what's called the Rook Inn, which is the kind of the club bar. But please stick around. You know, go off, have some food, or we can possibly even. I don't think you're talking to Shrey, who's our head of kind of fan involvement. We might be able to organise to kind of maybe give you guys some food and stick around for the match. I think you're playing Chatham. Yes, I said Chatham Town is the first one up that afternoon. Should win that one.
Fingers. You never say that. Never say it. Don't jinx it.
Well, no, the women's team recently, right, it's been absolutely gutting because we've left 4 points on the pitch. They've had 2 last-minute equalisers against them. So we were playing against Durham, who are one of the very few other clubs that isn't backed by a major team, and Reading. And both times they were 1-0 up against Durham, 2-0 up with 15 minutes to play against Reading, and managed to end up 2-2 in that one. So, you know, these are critical points that we're leaving on the pitch in our battle to avoid relegation.
Absolutely galling when that happens, really, isn't it?
Don't.
What can we expect then? So first one's February the 10th.
Is it the 10th or is it the 17th?
Hang on, 17th. So you're right. Yes, you're right. You are.
There we go. I'm looking at my notes. So I've been briefed on when it is. So I think it's the 17th.
Hey, if we get people there the 10th, they can soak up the atmosphere for a week. No, the 17th, absolutely correct. So what can they expect when they come to, because we know what we're laying on, right? We're laying on a normal play date, which if you've never been, you really do need to go to. It is funky tunes, it's dress up and Lego and VR headsets. And then we've got Audio Active coming from Brighton, and they're going to be doing dad and kid rap battles as well. So it's 2 hours of fun. What can we expect from the venue?
The venue is a gloriously atmospheric football club bar. The football club the hospitality is done by the marvelously named Only with Love. I'm actually wearing one of their sweatshirts right now, which is a local Lewes brewery. They're a really interesting brewery, actually. They're a community brewery, and they position themselves as a well-being brewery. So they only do low alcohol and no alcohol beer. So the space itself, but again, I think really the thing to do is just to enjoy the ground as well. I mean, you can roam around, you know. So there are 2 big terraces, one at either end. There's a big stand down one side that seats, I don't know, maybe 1,000. And then there is this glorious grassy bank that runs all the way down the other side. And again, it's just a really wonderful place just to, you know, watch football, just soak it up, run around. And a really important thing to mention, actually, is one of the things that is true about match days at Lewes is that by and large, if your kid would like to be a mascot and walk out with the team, it's pretty much done on a first come first serve basis. So you basically go and loiter by there's this marvelous gate that gets lowered onto the pitch, and you go and kind of hang around by that, and you may well walk out with one of the players holding your hand. And you know, we've got a couple of internationals. So we've got a New Zealand international who plays for the women's team called Jackie Hand, and a Maltese international as well. So you can walk out holding the hand of an international footballing star.
What more could you want?
Less likely with the men's team, although there was, until he got transferred to, where did he go? He went to Sutton United. There was a guy who plays for, where was it? I think it might have been Guyana. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
Dion Moore, very good player, but he decided to go and play professionally for the League 2 Sutton United. And then I think the other thing just to mention is there's also something called Rookie Kickers. So from 9 till 10 on a Saturday morning in Lewes, down at the 3G, which is the kind of artificial pitch just next to the stadium. There's something called Rookie Kickers, which is where 2 of our women's first team, Valentine Percy and Amelia Hazard, no relation, by the way, to those of you who know Eden Hazard, Amelia Hazard, they run literally a drop-in football session for pretty much anybody. That's called Rookie Kickers, and that's £10 just if you turn up. And then again, as I said, please do stick around afterwards to watch the game. Although thinking about it all the men's kickoffs are at 3 o'clock. The women's kickoffs are either at 12 or at 2, so they're might be a little bit easier to manage. I'm just trying to think with the Watford and Crystal Palace games. I can't remember the kickoff times, but obviously if it's a 12 o'clock kickoff, you'll just be going straight into the match, and by the time you come out of to be honest, by the time you come out the Rook Inn, people will be trying to get in to have a pint. And if it's a 2 o'clock kickoff, then it's obviously a little bit more manageable, because I know what hanging around with kids with not that much to do is like. Although Lewes is, there's a lot going on in Lewes. You can go and wander around and enjoy the town.
Yeah. So it really sounds like it is a club that's set up for families, and that's, obviously that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because you get families, you get that kind of repeat business, and you make it a nice experience for somewhere to go. And like with Playdates, I guess, is we want to make it a great place that kids and parents want to hang out, and I guess that's the same with the football club.
I think so. We also have the best, regularly voted the best fries in non-league football. We have a fries hut that does loaded fries, and they are absolutely fantastic. We also sell lots of sweets and lollipops if your kids need a sugar rush. Probably should promote that. I'm sure you're all into healthy eating, but if you want to give your kid a lollipop, the first time I ever took my son, I took him to Chelsea because I was a Chelsea fan, and I took him to Chelsea, and I spent an absolute fortune on wine gums. I took him and 4 of his friends, and all they were interested in is how many wine gums they could eat during the course of the match. The answer is a lot.
You didn't actually have to buy them in the football ground, did you? Because that's...
Well, I forgot. So I did.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid it was absolute daylight bloody robbery. It was small mortgage, but there you go. Probably worth it. But I think, again, taking your kid to a Premier League game age 5 or 6 as he was, not sure.
Yeah. One of my son's first games was when we got relegated out of the Football League. So that was a joyous experience for everyone.
Well, it's funny. I actually did. I didn't know where to tell you about this, but my son recently did a media studies project. He did manage to pass his GCSE, one of the very few he did, and he had to do it about a celebrity. And he created this celebrity, and the celebrity was a Scunthorpe United fan.
Oh, really?
And he was actually in his little blurb, he wrote about how he was leading a consortium to buy the club. So there you go.
Oh, right. Okay. I mean, I wish this was real because we could do with some money. But it's fascinating. I mean, on that theme, because, I'm thinking about it, supporting a club where they're really trying hard now to look for new models and new ways of running a club and bringing cash in. Have you had at Lewes, other teams coming along going, what is it you do? Can you give us any tips?
It's interesting. I mean, we've got a brilliant CEO, a woman called Maggie Murphy, who some of you may have even seen. She's one of the most high-profile campaigners around women's football, around just trying to make football better. And we also have a fantastic sponsor. So there is a New Zealand-based software company called Xero, who are the club's main sponsor. And one thing that they built together, that's the club, obviously, but Maggie is very much the kind of the voice piece for it. But Xero and Lewes Football Club have done is we put together a toolkit, and the toolkit is actually something that we send out to other clubs, and it's just basically a blueprint for how we do it, how we have done it, and how we'd like to try and help them do it. And so, people do look at it, but it's difficult. You have to have, for quite a long time, there were owners who underwrote the ownership because, the ownership had to reach a point that it was significant enough, the community ownership, that it's significant enough to be able to bring meaningful money into the club. We'd still like lots more owners, because lots more owners means, we can do more, we can compete better. But no, we are a very, very powerful vocal voice, given that we're a town of 27,000 people just down the road from Brighton. And actually one of the challenges we face both, so that our attendances always get hammered when Brighton are at home, because we've got lots of people where Brighton and Hove Albion is their kind of Premier League team, and then Lewes is their non-league team. And similarly, Brighton and Hove Albion have a women's Super League team. And the main impact there is in terms of competing for players. Obviously, your players, they have to be local, but it's nice if you're the academy, the pathway teams can come can be kind of sourced locally, and it's very competitive down where we are. We have 2 very, very good teams within 15 minutes of each other.
It's refreshing having a look at the website. If people want to know more, there's so much on there, and there's the impact report, and as you say, it's a very transparent football club.
Well, we try to be, is the honest truth. Again, we've got, God only knows, we're not perfect. We can always do better. And the new directors, we're kind of rummaging around under the bonnet. We're finding things and going, wow, we didn't know that happened. We didn't know that was how that worked, and we could do that better. Let's try and But as I said, the volunteers are all the directors are all volunteers. But then there is a full-time professional staff at the club who work unbelievably hard, most of them doing 2 or 3 jobs, because we are committed to trying to be a disruptive, different, alternative voice around, the game and sport that not all of us, but a lot of us love.
And it's such a refreshing thing to hear as well, because you hear a lot of negativity about football, and it's a very positive story, and I'm just really happy to be able to have you on to talk about it. And I'm glad that Dad Lasol and Lewes FC are coming together and working together on Playdate on the 17th of February. If you want to get tickets, get onto dadlasol.com/shop, and you can go and get your tickets for the Playdate there. Ben, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problems. Great to meet you, Jim. Hope to see you all soon down at the Dripping Pan.
Exactly, yes. So that is the 17th of February, and then it's going to be once a month after that. Check all the dates at our events page on dadlasol.com as well. So that is February's Dad Lasol sessions. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking part, and make sure you come to all our events. And this will be, the next one of this will be first Thursday of March, which is, I don't know what date it is. You could work it out if you've got a calendar. Don't have a guest yet, but I'm sure someone will come along, and it'll be great. Thank you very much for